All right, what's up guys? Vince Blaze here with Adventures Within Media. Today's an exciting day. It's a little bit of a gloomy day, but we are excited because we're gonna be reviewing the Canon R5. We figured we'd give you guys our thoughts on it to give you guys a little bit more insights if you guys are considering to purchase this camera. Right off the bat, this camera is a professional camera. It's mainly geared to photographers. The market's been demanding it lately, and so Canon has been responding to that call. So we're here at Tommy's Pizzeria in Corinna. It's a pizza shop here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. We were lucky enough that they let us shoot here for some B-roll and for some content to let us test out the camera features. But yeah, looking forward to giving this camera a shot. So we're here with the man himself, Tommy. How's it going?
Great, how are you?
Good, good. So you are the owner of this. You're the one who created the shop. Since when have you guys been operating?
Yeah, we opened almost 4 years ago.
Okay, so just before the pandemic, what made you start your own pizzeria?
I've been making pizzas for 17 years and I enjoy doing it every day and I never get sick of making them.
Wait, 17 years?
17 years.
Did you just make these like at home or?
No, I started working at a local place in Winnipeg here
Okay.
when I was about 15 years old.
Nice, nice, damn. Do you ever get tired of it?
No, I never get tired of it.
What's your favorite go-to pizza?
I like our Detroit style. Something I love about pizza is you can never run out of combinations or different styles. There's so many different styles of pizza. I'm just starting to add more. We'll have 3 styles of pizza as of now.
Nice. You've competed before. Like you're not just doing this like to run the shop, you're also trying to improve your skills and learn.
I'm on this team called the World Pizza Champions team. We travel all over the place and we compete in competitions. We go to Vegas every year, Parma, Italy. There's one in Naples and Atlantic City, and I've been going to Toronto a couple times now. I do pretty good, yeah.
Well, what's the most competitive area, would you say? Would it be Italy or?
Italy's definitely the most competitive area. It's a crazy world over there when you go to these competitions.
Cool, so I guess today we're gonna see some pizza making. I don't think I've ever made pizzas before. I've seen you guys make some pizzas in the past. Lucky enough to shoot some content for it. Walk me through the pizza making process, sort of roughly.
Yeah, sure. I think we're gonna make a New York style and a Detroit style and a tavern style pizza today.
Okay.
So we'll be making those and you can hop behind the line and see how it goes.
All right, let's see how it goes. So far, I feel like obviously it's a really good camera, but I find that the autofocus is where I struggle with the most. Obviously, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts here, so it's a little bit hard to be harsh and critical about it, but it does tend to lose focus really quickly. Either it's too snappy or it's not snappy enough, either way. All right, so I've only ever owned Canon cameras up till now. I'm very familiar with the ecosystem and the way that the menus and how they operate, so obviously I find it very intuitive. I think that most people would find Canon cameras really easy to use, so I think that's always a pro, and the Canon R5 is no exception. It's very intuitive. Most of the things are exactly where you expect them to be if you're coming from another Canon camera. And one thing I've really noticed is obviously with the all-eye and the 10-bit, the color depth is very, very good. You're able to apply some LUTs and a lot of color grading in post, which is amazing, especially when you compare it to like the EOS R, which is what I previously used to use. We do encounter quite a bit of autofocus issues. I do find, especially in low light situations, the camera does struggle with autofocus. As you can tell, I was tapping the screen constantly trying to figure out where the shot was and trying to make sure that the autofocus was on the right area. But overall, obviously it's a really good camera. It does track faces really well. I do find that the face and the eye tracking is really good for this camera. But sometimes, if you do have a face in the background, it'll autofocus to that rather than what you're actually trying to shoot. So just something to keep in mind, right? You can obviously take that feature off if you want to. I also do find that the IBIS, the internal body stabilization, is a lot better with the Canon R5 than the R6, which we're shooting on right now. The R6 tends to catch on to anything that's small micro movements and will like have that little weird awkward jitter. While as the R5, I find it's a lot more smoother. So if you've been experiencing that issue, the R5 is definitely something that you could consider for sure. I do find that having a few compression modes is useful because unfortunately the overheating is real. I shot a couple of weddings and a couple of like long talking heads, and the camera would just start overheating after about 10, 15, 20 minutes max. So I would usually have to go down to IPB or even shoot at 1080. Obviously the quality is really good anyways. Personally, I don't know if I can notice too much of the difference. You can see it breaking down a little bit when you're compressing it down to YouTube, for example. But for the most part, it's very much usable. So it's useful to have those different compression modes. But the overheating issue is definitely a huge con to the camera. I'd say if you're shooting weddings or anything like a lot of corporate talking head interviews, documentaries, I'd say you might want to look into like Sony FX3s or stuff like that, just because they'll be able to work through that and not overheat throughout the whole shoot. So the low light is pretty decent. You can shoot two base native ISOs, which is 800 and 3200. They're really good, even in between up to 3200. I find that it's still usable. After that, gets a little bit dicey. It's definitely not a low light sort of oriented camera. I think that, again, everyone knows, but at this point you might as well invest into a Sony camera if you're shooting a lot of low light, but it is usable at that point. If you're using it, 3200, maybe 5000, you could get away with it, but it really depends on how many shadows there are in the shot. So for an environment like here, it's really well lit because of the glass, but there's also a lot of shadows here and there, so we're gonna see how it performs. Now as for the 8K, I've never shot in 8K. We shot, I think, once just for like an Instagram clip, just to test it out. Nothing phenomenal. I don't think that anyone at this level is needing for 8K, unless you're shooting like cinema film, but if you are, then you're not shooting on a Canon R5. So I would say, like, don't get this camera for this feature unless you want to be able to brag and tell people that you have 8K shooting camera. Yeah, overall, I think it's a really good camera for video. I think it just really depends on what you're using it for. If you're using for like a lot of like promotional content and stuff like that, and even short films, I think that you could get away with a lot of like high quality short films and cinematic sort of look. I think it's a really good camera for that, but you have to be really intentional with it. All right, so all the food's out on the table right now. We're just gonna take some B-roll. The light's quite dimmer, so we're gonna be testing out the higher ISO, the low light side of the situation, but the food looks amazing, and we're just gonna have fun shooting some B-roll of this. We just have Kira here from Winnipeg Food Bites. She's a food content creator here in Winnipeg, and she's worked with Tommy a few times, so we invited her to model basically for the shoot and help us, gracefully grab some of these items. Tommy, tell me what we have in front of us.
Okay, well, under all this arugula, we have some meatballs.
Okay.
Over here, we have our tavern style of vodka and pepperoni pizza.
Okay.
We have a burrато over here.
Okay.
We have our sausage and pep with ripped ricotta on a New York style crust. And this is our Detroit style crust.
Well, I'm looking for it. It looks delicious, so. All right, awesome. So I think we just wrapped the shoot. We're just getting a bit more content for social media. We're gonna head over to another location to test out the photo capabilities of this camera. It probably might be on a different day, but overall, it's definitely a good camera to consider if you guys are looking to create some professional video content. All right, what's up guys? So it's a different day, it's a few days later. We're currently in the middle of nowhere. We're near the river, but we were just at the Exchange District shooting some photos. We're here with Corinna, who's volunteering as our model today. Corinna is a professional model. She's been modeling for like 17 years. Totally just kidding, put her on the spot. Just a friend of ours who decided to volunteer for the video. But we wanted to test out some of the photo capabilities of this camera, specifically for portraits. Obviously, we've got a little bit of landscape, so we'll test that out as well. But this is a really powerful camera for photo. It's mainly geared for photographers, so obviously everything that it's capable of doing is very centered around taking photos. So I love this camera, I've always enjoyed it, but we're just gonna test it out a little bit more. All right, so obviously this camera is great for photos. I've shot hundreds of photos with this cameras, but any Canon camera pretty much I'd say is very photo focused, especially in the mirrorless or DSLR world. I've used it on professional shoots. So one of the first times I used this was actually for one of the clients was booking me for prints. So he had to get larger photos printed out for an exhibition. And so we needed the extra megapixel printed in the highest quality possible. So obviously this camera is made for that. Honestly, this camera performs really well for that type of scenario. Even just the screen, I could tell that it looks a little bit sharper than the EOS R just on the screen itself, but obviously in post it looks even more sharp. Honestly, if you're considering this camera for photography, you could also just look at the EOS R, which is what I previously used to shoot on. The EOS R shoots at a little bit less megapixel, as I just mentioned, only 30.5, I think. Honestly, for photos, for everyday photos, even for professional photos, the EOS R is an unreal camera. The only reason I upgraded to the R6 and the R5 is because I mainly do a video production production company. And so I figured I needed a little bit more color depth for the most part. The EOS R only shoots at 8-bit and this camera shoots at 10-bit internal. That's the main reason why I got this camera, was for the video features. So if you guys are considering a photo camera, I would also take a look at the EOS R. One thing I did notice is that the autofocus isn't as good as I'm used to. Maybe it's because I'm running it off an adapter and I'm running it off the EF lenses. So maybe there's a little bit of a glitch or a lag. I do find that the Sony cameras have developed their autofocus to be superior than Canon's, which is a big 180 from 5 years ago. It's great for obviously conditions like this. Photos, there's no issues at all. It's more so in video when you're really considering a lot of things moving around, that you might struggle a little bit with it. So, but besides that, honestly, really great camera, and I really enjoy using this camera. It's great for photo, it's great for hybrid shooters who are doing both photo and video, because you can switch back and forth fairly easily. And yeah, obviously, if you guys have the capability of using this and are running a professional photography business, I wouldn't hesitate to get this camera. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys gained some insight from this video. Obviously, I've been shooting with this camera for last year. No expert with it. There's some features that I'm still learning as we go, but I'd say overall it's a really good camera, and I'm enjoying it. I don't think I'm gonna switch for a while. So if you guys have any questions on the camera itself, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Obviously, you guys can hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you guys wanna see more reviews, or if you guys wanna see more content. We'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.